I had a newer trapper asking me a couple questions about catching coyotes, and it was easier than typing back and forth to make a video. And I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I actually do a full-length video um, and go over a couple things and just a few of my thoughts. This video is going to be about what I believe. This is my opinion and my opinion only. Um, Nothing against dirt hole sets. I use them all the time. Probably in the fall of the year, 90% or more of my canine catches in dirt holes. But I really believe for a beginning trapper, a flat set is easier to master. It's easier to teach, and it's easier for a beginning trapper to master. And that is for multiple reasons, really. First off, you don't have to worry as much about hole angle and getting the trap bed correct, and step downs and distance from the hole nearly as much as you would with with a flat set as opposed to a dirt hole. We do all those things with a dirt hole because a dirt hole is a great set because it works so well at guiding the animal. And I will admit that the flat set does not have the guiding properties that a dirt hole does. But that being said, a novice at making a dirt hole can make a lot of mistakes. And I'm not going to go into all that now. But the number one thing about the flat set, I think why it's best for beginners, is it's a little bit easier to make, it's easier to master, and it can be made very natural looking. And that's, I think, a mistake that some beginning trappers can make. People who have been around the block a while, they know what they can get away with a dirt hole. They got experience with it. So that being said, I'm just going to show you just some ideas of really simple flat sets. And I decided to do this in the woods. And one of the main reasons why I'm doing that is, and I may add to the video and do a very super simple flat set in farm country, maybe in some sod ground. But I wanted to do this in the woods because I did a lot of trail camming. Big baits in the woods when I was trying to locate fishers. And I had a lot of canines come in, and they stop a distance away, and they won't work those big baits in a cubby or whatever. And they usually stop about the same distance and usually approach from downwind. But when I was at Minktoberfest last weekend, Jerry Braley was talking about the exact same thing, and Jerry LeBeau as well. They both gave a Fisher demo, and they both talked about how canines and cats also will stop short of that cubby. They may not work that cubby. And so that's why I'm choosing to do it in the woods. This is just some super simple ways to make flat sets in the woods. Coyotes can be caught on flashy sets. Flashy sets are great for coyotes to bring them in from a distance, a little bit of eye appeal. But I really believe in the East anyway, a natural, trying to make the set look very natural, and a flat set you can achieve that goal. I believe a beginner can have more success trapping coyotes. And I mean, let's face it, at least here in Pennsylvania and a lot of the eastern states, there's a lot of people who think trapping is dying, and that couldn't be further from the truth. In Pennsylvania, the Fisher and Bobcat really has a lot of trappers excited about it, and a lot of people are participating in our craft. I don't say sport. I don't like the word sport when it comes to trapping, but that's another video in its entirety. But on the other aspect of that, really the coyote has gotten more people into our craft than really any other animal, simply because it's a byproduct of folks deer hunting, turkey hunting, whatever, especially deer hunting. They want to control some of the coyote population in their hunting properties. So that being said, I'll get to the video, and we're going to make this super simple and easy for pretty much anybody to understand. Like I said, it's going to be geared for a beginner. Okay, I just want to show this. This is an ATV trail. It could be a logging road, really anything going through the woods, farm lane if you're in farm country, but I want to make my sets as close to the animal travel way as possible. So, you know, they're going to be coming down these two tracks. So I just feel it's much easier to get an animal off the trail a little bit, or 1 or 2 steps, than make them come, say, way over into there 5 or 6 steps. If you have, you know, if you have problems with you know, different size vehicles driving on your roads, well, then obviously you have to get back a little further. I mean, this is more UTV size, but just show you some real simple things. Now, there's some grass up now. This is early October, might not be here. The vegetation is going to be dead when it comes to trapping season, but some of this dry, you know, this could be dead and dry, but this is, as you can see by my hand, that this would be a good bit of backing. You want a little bit of backing, so you cut down your approach by 50%. And this would be a good subtle backing to use. You know, you don't need to have a big massive log for a backing if you're woods trapping. It can be very subtle, especially for coyotes. And if, like I said, there may not be vegetation at the time you're trapping, this is something I brought in here. This is just some bark, a piece of dead branch, some sticks, some leaves. It's just some debris. It probably is, oh, maybe 6 inches high. And don't be afraid to make it wide. I like wide backings on post sets and flat sets. That one over there is kind of wide too. I like that simply because it helps position the animal when they're working at parallel. And it cuts down the approach a bit. If they come in from right here, it would cut, it would center them up to get to the front of this set. So I really prefer wide backings when making either flat or post type sets. But you know, there's just some with a little bit of natural high vegetation there right by the trail, and there I brought this in. I think we'll probably make that set here at this kind of natural, or kind of where sticks and stuff. I'm going to make it right here, I believe. You know, some people call this a trash pile set. I do like some heavier, you know, sticks and bark and, you know, rotten limbs or whatever mixed in there so that the wind don't blow it away. And you may have animals sometimes come in from the back, and if it's just a few leaves, they can 1 or 2 swipes with their paw and the leaves are already gone. But I mean, that looks super natural. In fact, looking at it through the camera, it almost looks like nothing is there. So I think that's where we're going to make our set. Okay, we're going to get started here. Like I said, I'm making this with beginners in mind. I wear these rubber coated gloves. Just keeps my hands from getting nasty, and if I get lure bait odors on them, I won't get them on the trap. Because if you get lure and bait odors on the trap, an animal could smell that and dig you out. This is just a sod buster hammer. Not the hammer I normally use, but this is the one everybody's familiar with, so that's why I grabbed this one to show this. I would come out from the base of that backing, oh, maybe 2-3 inches, and just start to make yourself a trap bed. try to keep your trap bed about the size of your trap. Now this is going to get a little bigger because we are in, this is nice easy digging woods dirt. It's not sod where you can make a nice shaved sides on your bed. Now, we're gonna go slow at this. I'm gonna test fit this trap. I'm gonna show you something really important. That bed's plenty big. In fact, it's probably a little bit too big. Now, I'm using a Duke 650 because a lot of folks really like these in coyotes in a lot of states. Now I set this trap and that trap is on a high pan, okay? Now this is gonna be a tip that I hope helps a lot of you beginning trappers out, because a lot of you folks not being real familiar with traps, you're worried about them going off, and you rightly should until you have some experience with them. But if you keep the pan up high like that, you can put your hand underneath that pan like that and just kind of push it in. You know, instead of trying to, I have that lip there, you can just push it in, push, the dog is about at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and you can push the forward face of that into that dirt, and that helps keep it secure. Now, you have your loose jaw here. You could set that on your mid-chain swivel, and that really helps to stabilize that loose jaw. That trap is bedded solid. Now, if you are still want it a little more solid, you can pack a little dirt with your hammer around the levers. That helps strengthen it up in that area, keeps it from tipping. And they're around the dog post as well. Now, that pan is still high, okay? Now, my hand is big enough, my fingers are big enough that I can just hold my thumb and forefinger, if you can see that. I'm gonna try to hold my arm down and bring that down to the night latch notch, okay? But if you can't do that, once that's kind of bedded like that and you have that dirt pushed in there, you can actually just lift that trap slowly out, and then put up your loose jaw. Use your thumb and forefinger where you have more control that way, and slowly bring the pan down into the night latch notch. And then you can set that back in the hole you just created. If you keep that loose jaw up and you work with the levers, you're not going to get caught that way. And you can just flip that loose jaw back on that mid-chain swivel. Now, I chose to use a drag on 10-12 feet of chain for this set, just for demonstration purposes. This is not the drag I'd use. I would probably be using a JC Connor or Saber Tooth or one of the premium drags out there. But this one was rigged up, and this is just for video purposes. So you just throw that out behind your set. If you're, you got to use drags when you're in brushy, wooded country where you have something for the drag to hang up. The premium drags will hang up in sod, but if you're a beginner, you definitely want to be in some heavier cover when you're using drag. And you don't need to cover up that chain. Now, this chain is rusty. It's not it is not dyed or anything, so it really blends in. But you don't need to cover a lot of that chain up. Maybe I would cover up until you can't reach anymore. Maybe 3 feet, 4 feet. The rest, that can just stay out there. That's not an issue. Now, I want to show you one more thing. I wanted to show you about bedding there. We should have did this before we bedded. Something as simple as for a pan cover on these big traps. If you're not really working in freezing ground, where you're going to have freezes that you'd be worried about these leaves, soaking with water and freezing, you could just crush up a couple leaves and put them under that pan, and that's your pan cover. You don't need You don't need to use wax paper, coffee fill, or any type of pan cover or polyfill under there. Leaves are super natural. Some folks put a big leaf over top of the pan. That's fine too. But those leaves are going to compress, like I said, unless they would get soaked up and freeze solid. But that's not really an issue. It's just a simple, natural way to keep. And the reason we're doing that is that's to keep dirt from getting under the pan. Because if dirt gets under the pan and it gets maybe rained on, it gets hard and the trap won't go off. So that's why we're doing that. Now, the final, I have a tendency to want to cover that chain right there. The final thing we need to do is, if you have a dirt sifter, you're going to want to sift the dirt over top of that trap. Now, I forgot my sifter at home, so I will not be sifting it, but this dirt is nice and not real clumpy. And plus we're using a big trap. You can get away with a little more using a big trap, but I'm feeling for stones. I don't feel any stones in there. There was one. But it's pretty nice dirt to work with. You know, obviously if you have a lot of stones in there, you need to use a sifter. But most of my farm ground, I don't have dirt like this. But now that makes for a very, now we remember our pan is right about there. That extra dirt, you just get rid of, keep things looking natural. Now, if you have a sifter, you can push some of this leaf and ground stuff through the sifter, but that just makes everything, you don't have to have it totally covered with leaves. You have dirt on there. I'm just doing this, here's some pine needles, more or less to blend it in a little bit. And that trap is ready to go. That trap is ready to go. Now we need to add our attractors. Now I said this is a flat set, but when I make flat sets, I put holes at them. I just use a rebar stake. It doesn't have to be rebarred. It's just a 1/2 inch piece of steel. If you have even like a crowbar, if you don't have something like this, that would work. Just at the base of that backing, make a shallow hole. If this was hard, I'd have to pound it with my hammer. Now, everybody who traps with dirt holes, they want a hole as deep as possible. With a flat set, you're just making a tiny hole like that. I don't like it deep. I do not like it deep because from watching animals on trail cam, I've found that the closer the odor is to the surface of the ground, the faster they seem to find it. That hole's that small. They're not going to get a paw in there to get that out of there. They're going to come up here, sniff it, hopefully caught when they sniff it. If not, they may start digging at that. You have a good chance of catching them then. Or sometimes they may urinate on that to mark it, and you have a chance at catching them then. So that hole is only maybe 2 inches deep, maybe 3, but it does not need to be real deep. So your lure goes down that hole. If you want to use bait, you can use bait down that hole, lure, and then put about a tablespoon or maybe a little less fox, coyote, or bobcat urine on that backing. And you can spray a little bit of that side, a little bit on that side, and just keep your lure down there. Just kind of spread it out a little bit. That sometimes helps with catching them when they want to mark it at a scent post. But your lure goes down that hole. Now, you don't need, if say you want to try 2 different lures or a lure and a bait, you can make another small hole on that side, maybe 8-10 inches apart, and another small hole there, and you can put multiple scents at that set if you want. But I usually just go with one lure and urine on the backing. So that is super simple. It looks extremely natural. There's nothing about this set that may tip a coyote off that something is wrong. When this gets a little bit of weather and rain, it's gonna look even better yet. And hey, like I said, I want to make this for beginners. So if you have any questions, if you never really trapped coyotes before, or foxes, or just to catch bobcats too, just about anything on land, like I said earlier, try to make it looking as natural as possible. Keep this as flat as possible, because now this is not as flat as I'd like it, but I didn't have a sifter. I wasn't going to dig up any more dirt, but keep it natural, keep it fairly flat. Get your lure down a hole, so they got to work at it a little bit too, if they want to get their nose closer to it. You know, put some urine up there in the backing and let them go. A lot of beginning trappers want to fiddle around with their sets and whatnot, and, you know, check them, make sure that everything's all right, but you don't have to add, you know, lure every so many days, or, you know, you shouldn't really mess with them. Let them weather in, and you know, if the coyotes are local coyotes in the area, let them get a little bit used to them. And so that's my kind of what I would recommend to any beginner if they were going to make a coyote set, is just a simple flat set with a subtle, natural, simple backing, blended in, and a lure hole at the base of that backing. So till next time. Okay, I pulled the camera off the tripod, and I just want to show you some different angles at this. There you can see the lure hole, just a very small lure hole. There, maybe you can see how high that backing is. I don't know, 6-7 inches. And from the lure hole to where the pan starts, I don't know how many is that. That's probably about, the pan center on that 650, that's probably about 7 inches. So when the dirt's on top of that, it's going to be very flat. And like I said, I blended it. I showed you how I blended it. Now, right here is this lip. And that is not an issue. I don't want you to think that, oh, because there's a little bit of a lip before, you know, the backing in front of the trap. That lip actually acts as a guide. They'll step out here on the flat before they'll step on that narrow lip. Just keep everything out here natural. And once you add some dirt on top of that lip's going to disappear some. But I just kind of wanted to show you this distance with that, you know, that little bit of a high spot lip there. That's my hand. I would say the pan center is about 7 inches. So just wanted to give you a couple looks. That's how high the backing is. It doesn't need to be that high, but sometimes up on the tripod you can't get the full picture. I just want to show you this situation here. This isn't really a road, but let's consider it a road. Yes, I drive out it, but if this was a road, and yeah, canines will travel along here. There's a creek over there, so they definitely will travel along here. That grass clump right there is perfect. And the trap is bedded just like before. Instead of using leaves crumpled up, there's some leaves here, but I just use grass to simulate. If you could find dry grass is probably better than this fresh living grass, but you can put that under the pan for a pan cover. And there's that little rebar hole I made from the hole to pan center, once again about 7 inches. But that lip, as I talked about before, that kind of acts as a guide. You can keep your trap back a little further with that. So you'll cover that up with dirt, or if you're in a situation where there's dead dry grass, you can take a knife or a scissors and cover that totally with grass and just eliminate dirt from the whole program. Yard clippings, dry yard clippings work, kind of like Mark Zager's pipe dream deal. And if you put that grass under the pan, or hay or dried yard grass, you can I think you can get away without using steel screen if you don't have it. Mark likes the steel screen, but for a beginner, I think you can get away without it if you do that. Just want to show a couple angles. Also, that is west and that is north. So I am on the upwind side of the trail, and fox or coyote that would come along will be working directly into the prevailing wind when coming up to that set. So that was just a situation. Grass clumps are great if you have them. If you're in sod country, they're great to make these type of sets. But there's 1,000 things you can do, and there's 1,000 different trappers that do it 1,000 different ways. But I'm just trying to show you how to do things super simple and kind of take some of the growing pains and voodoo out of land trapping.